everyone. We'll go ahead and bring the meeting to order, and I'll ask the roll be called, please.
Can we close the other one?
Oh, what's that?
We need to close the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to close the other one.
Okay, we did adjourn to close, but, okay.
Since we're back to normal.
All right.
But we're
We're supposed to close. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll ask for a motion to please close our 5 o'clock meeting.
I move to adjourn the 5 o'clock.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Do we have? Yes, we have a thank you, Beth, and thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
All right, we have a time down?
Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. Okay, now that we've closed our 5 o'clock meeting, we'll now start our 7 o'clock meeting, and I welcome you all to our December board meeting and ask that we open it up and the roll be called, please.
Blue. Here. Bozeman.
Here.
Disharum. Here. Holzhauser. Here. Park.
Here.
Reed. Here. Zawin.
Here.
Okay, let's please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all for being here with us this evening, and we'll start the meeting by opening it up for public participation. Is there anyone who would wish to address the board during public participation this evening? Okay. All right, we'll now ask for a motion to open up the Truth in Taxation public hearing for the 2016 tax levy.
I move to open the Truth in Taxation public hearing for the 2016 tax levy.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, thank you, Cheryl and Teresa. Roll call vote, please.
Blue.
Aye.
Bozeman.
Aye.
Disharum. Aye. Holzhauser.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carried. And Mrs. Beverly, she's going to step up front and she's going to present information regarding the 2016 tax levy.
Okay, the 2016 tax levy, this is for the public hearing, so some of the information that we talked about last month is the same information that we're talking about now. The purpose of the tax hearing is to share the financial outlook of the district, share the levy information, and receive any public comments regarding the levy. The first thing we're looking at are fund balances. It shows the trend of our education fund balance going back up. This is a fund balance after taxes. Before taxes, we're just a little over $17 million before taxes. Building fund balance shows it's going back up, but then it came back. It will come down a little bit for this school year. Transportation, the same thing. We have reserves built up in the transportation fund. We used some of the money that was in reserves this year to be able to make capital purchases with the buses so that we can get a rotation going. We haven't been able to buy buses the last few years because more buses or replace buses because we were just adding more and more to be able to get all the kids to school. Working cash fund balances at the end of this year will be at about just under $1.2 million in working cash. The percent EAV increase per year, as you can see, we're on an upside down bell curve. For this school year, we were at 3.8. The estimated increase for the 17-18 school year from the county assessor is 5%. So we are going in the right direction. Our tax rate history, currently this year we're at 4.61 next year. The rate with the levy that's being presented tonight is actually 4.58. So the tax rate will actually decrease for next year. These are the Peoria County tax rates. Ours, as you can see, we are all the way on the left, so we have the lowest tax rate in Peoria County.
Do you know how that compares with Washington and Metamora and Morton?
We are on the very low end as well there. Yeah, I don't have them in there, but we've done comparisons before. We are lower than Morton, I know that. Here is the 2016 levy chart, the 3% balloon. This is what will be going to the county for the levy. This is not what we expect that we will actually get. from the levy for next year, but rather this is what we're going to ask for. The 3% balloon represents that we're hoping that EAB will go up 8% instead of the 5% that the county assessor is estimating. And we balloon that so that in the funds like education and our building and maintenance fund and transportation that are capped, we can make sure that we get all of the money that could possibly be available to us because we need the money in those funds more than what we can actually get because they're capped. So the funds with the tax rate that will increase and decrease by fund is court will go up a small percentage, and then our IMRF, which is our non-certified retirement plan, and then Social Security and Medicare is actually going down, as well as our bond and interest payments. Our bond and interest payments are higher than what we're paying this year, but because the EAB is going up, the tax rate is actually going to decrease. So we're looking, it's going down 0.0229% from last year. And you can see here that we're looking for a 6.92% increase over the previous year. That's with the balloon amount that we're requesting from the county. This is the chart that shows what we actually expect to get in the levy and what we will be using to budget for the 17-18 school year. So we're looking at about a little under 1.2 million in the ed fund in new money, and then operations is about 200,000, transportation about 87,000. And those, so that's what we will budget on basing it, and then if we get anything over 5%, that just allows us to add other things that we may want to do or be able to put it into reserves. With the proposed levy, the budget is projected to be balanced for 17-18. It's balanced based on the following assumptions that we do actually get a 5% increase in EAB. The reason that could not happen, that may not happen is if there are too many tax appeals from residential or commercial property within the district. The lease levy continues to help fund technology. There are resources set aside in the budget for growth and existing program implementation expansion as planned, such as our elementary counselors and Spanish and other programs that we talked about. So those are already in the budget and are planned, and it's balanced even with those programs being expanded. And then one-to-one implemented as recommended are all in the budget. Are there any questions? I will be delivering the levy to the county tomorrow after you guys all sign it, after it gets signed tonight, and I will be taking it. It's my favorite day of the year. So
Thank you for all your work.
it's done, and not working with anybody else, but it's worth a lot of money to us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board on the 2016 tax levy information that we just presented? No? All right, then I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing and note that no one addressed the board.
I move to close the public hearing with no one addressed the board.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Karen. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bozeman.
Aye.
Dishman.
Aye.
Holzhauser. Aye. Park.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Blue.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. So, all right. Now I'll go into public participation, and we will start with Dr. Parker and the superintendent's report.
Karen, use one of these papers that the mouse might pick up better if you put it. We're having some technology issues.
You take this.
For some reason, it might help a little bit for the mouse to pick up. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Technology continues to be our challenge in this room every month, so. As we get started, Wait on our safety slide. There we go. All right. As you know, safety continues to be our top priority here in the district, and we'll get started with our safety briefing. I need to make sure we have volunteers to call 911, first aid responders, and also those that are certified in CPR. If you could raise your hands, please. Thank you very much. Our exits are off to my right and my left, and our AED machine is in our main hallway off to the right. Tonight, just want to let everybody know we're going to begin recording our board meetings back there in the back, and we'll be posting those a few days after each board meeting on our website. They won't be live, but they will in the future, sometime in the next few months or so. But this will be a way for our community and staff to get on and watch our board meetings at a later date. It shouldn't take too long to get those up there. So thank you to Mrs. Stefanski for her time and coming to record our meetings. The first update that I have for all of you tonight is our enrollment numbers. Our enrollment today is exactly the same number as it was at the end of October, which is 4,539 students. And I looked to see what we did last year at this time, and last year we dropped 11 students during this same time period, and this year we remain the same. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that data, and we'll actually be having a facilities meeting sometime in the next 2 to 3 months where we're going to continue looking at our building needs and planning for future growth. This week, Mrs. Bowman and some members of our staff and myself were fortunate enough to go up to Burlington, Illinois to visit a school district which has fully implemented one-to-one. We learned a lot on best practices for implementation, best usages of technology in the classroom. I would say it was very, very beneficial visit. It's exciting to watch our technology plan continue to move forward, and I know Mrs. Bowman's going to have some updated information on our one-to-one plan next month, so we're excited about that. We're going to have a focus on technology at our Teachers Institute on January 4th with all of our sessions being presented by our own staff and administration, and I would encourage our board to attend any of those sessions if you could. Just to continue learning more about our one-to-one plan and about the technology being used in our schools. We would love to have you there. And a big thank you to Mrs. Bowman for her work in putting that day together. Looks like it's going to be a great day for our staff. Tonight we have our Banner Elementary School here to present. I want to thank them for coming out this busy time of the year and cold weather, and appreciate your time tonight. I'm going to ask Mrs. Bowman to share some technology slides with us.
Okay, so as a part of the one-to-one implementation plan, we had talked about last year implementing a program called Go Guardian. So this year with our pilot teachers and actually all of the Chromebooks in the district, just this last month, we put this Go Guardian program onto all of our Chromebooks. And so our teachers are still learning about it, we're still learning about it, but we wanted to test it out to make sure there are several different programs such as this out there on the market, and we wanted to make sure that this is truly the best one and the one that we wanted to go with. So this is a snapshot of the administrative dashboard, which I have access to and our Director of Technology has access to currently. And what you'll see up right in the middle where you see the blue going up and down, that's our usage and our trends in usage. And so when I took the screenshot I just highlighted there, that was that day. You could see it was just for a week's time period there. That was at 2 p.m. that day. We currently had 241 people on the computer at that point in time. So it tracks, but this is just Chromebooks, keep in mind currently. It is not on any of our desktop devices or anything like that. But what it does, then down below on the pie chart you'll see is it tracks all of the different websites that the Chromebooks are going to. And it tracks this information through our Google logins. So we're a Google Apps for Education school, and because of that it's able to pick up all this information. So that top one there, that 46% was on Google. The second one there is also a different form of Google. The first one was Google Docs, then it's regular Google, and then right behind that next highest percentage is Instructure. That's our Canvas, our learning management system. And then from there you can see the websites go down. MobiMax is one that's used highly for interventions throughout the district. And we could go on, and I'll show you a little bit more about the different sites. What's really great about this program is you will see up on the top it says 658 flagged sites. Now initially that's a little alarming, but what it does is it picks up different keywords, and this program flags those sites for us and rates them on a like a minor severity, a moderate, and then a severe, if there were to be something that maybe a student shouldn't be on. I get alerts every day for the severe ones, and I will say 90% of them are nothing really severe. It picks up on those keywords. So let's say you were doing a report on depression. This is one we came across. It flags the word suicide as severe. And so then it brings that site up for me. So I get several of those throughout the day. We're working on getting building administrators their own logins for this so that they will have access to that as well. But since it's been set up, there were 2 little incidents that we needed to talk with some students about and we're able to deal with. So it's a good monitoring tool from that standpoint, that it helps us really keep track of that from the administrative side. The next slide I have here, this is just, again, this breaks down, these are the top educational tools, and it really tracks the tools that we're using, how often people are on those tools, and this is throughout the district on all of the Chromebooks, and breaks it down by time and hours. So you can see the different sites that are being highly used. This will be a great tool for us to use to monitor, our different programs we're trying out with Teachers Beneficial. Are they using them or are they not using them? And then the other really great component of GoGuardian is the teacher aspect. So the teachers are able to, they register their students on the Chromebooks. And I don't have a screenshot of this because it would have had student names and there was no way to take them all out. I played around with it and it didn't work. But it gives you, when the students are on in live time, you can see each of their screens up on your computer screen. And if you wanted to lock all of them out of what they were on, you can just hit one button and it locks them. And they get a little raccoon that pops up on their screen so they don't see anything else. They can't navigate off of that page. They're just stuck on that page. So if the teacher was ready to talk and have some direct instruction up in the class, they could do that. They could pause everybody's screen so that way they know they're not going to be getting into any other websites. Then this is actually a snapshot of, at the end of every session the teacher runs, they get this report emailed to them through their account. And so then they can see, oh, this is 60% of my kids were on InStructure. Again, that's Canvas, that's our learning management system. 36% were on their Google Drive. That new tab, anytime you open a new tab, for some reason it registers it here on GoGuardian, and then you can see there were just a couple other people, one on the district website and then one on Google. So that's a very nice feature that just automatically gets pushed out to those teachers at the end of every session, which has been very beneficial for them. So not a lot of our teachers are completely aware of this yet because it's new, but there is a session at our January 4th Institute on this GoGuardian, so if they want to learn some more about that, they could attend that session, and we have 2 of our teachers who are currently using it, holding that. So, any questions on what you saw here? So far we've been very happy with it, so hopefully that'll continue.
If I can only install that owl at home,
Yeah, really.
Or you could pause it at home. I don't think it has that option.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Next, I will ask Mr. Kreider, and I believe Coach Booker's here as well, to come forward. I think we have a special recognition for one of our swimmers, I believe, in the audience.
Mrs. Stefanski, I'm also looking forward to those athletic events being televised live as well. So, thank you for giving us a few minutes tonight to recognize a very special athlete. We don't get to do this a lot, and this really is just a nice thing for us to recognize an athlete, Emma Theobald, who is a junior here at Dunlap High School, and just the fantastic fall season that she had. Emma is a member of our Dunlap High School swim team, and as a team, they had a fantastic season overall, but her as an individual, she did some pretty special things. The first thing I kind of wanted to talk about was some of the records that she set. When you walk into our pool, we have a records board that kind of sits or is up against the wall above the pool of all the events, and I still have classmates from the late 1980s that are up there, and they'll text me from time to time, or they'll email me, hey, am I still up there? Well, I used to be able to say, yeah, you're still hanging on up there, but not anymore. Emma set 4 individual swim records for our pool this year. She was a part of 2 relays that set records as well. So 6 overall pool records this year, which is fantastic. Throughout the course of the season, they kept building and building. And then they went to the state meet, which was at Evanston High School. Beautiful facility, unbelievably large campus at Evanston High School. And one of the neat things about swimming that a lot of people don't know is there's no class system. There's no 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. So she's competing at the state tournament against everybody in the state of Illinois, no matter what size your high school is. And she was awesome. The first thing she did, she placed second in the 100 backstroke. A second place finish at the state is unreal. Then later on, she finished fifth in the 200 individual medley. So to say that she represented Dunlap High School well at the state meet is an understatement. After the season was over, then more accolades started to come in. The first one that we were very proud of in the athletic department was, hopefully you got to see her picture in the paper. She was the co-swimming athlete of the year for the Peoria Journal-Star. I think she probably should have been just the swimmer of the year. You know, that's a little bit different. Thank you. Thank you. And then more accolades, again, started to come in. And I can continue on here for several minutes, but she was, for her performance at the state meet, she was named an All-American swimmer as well. But I think one of the ones that I'm so proud of with a lot of our athletes here at Dunlap High School is this one right here. Mom got this to me today, and we're going to display this out in our case. It is a Scholastic All-American. And it's not just about swimming, because if you know Emma and you know what our swim team is all about, they're practicing in the morning, they're practicing in the afternoon, they're constantly training, but you got to be a student first. And in order to be a Scholastic All-American, you have to have a GPA of 3.5 or higher, and you've got to have some pretty good swim times. And there's only 54 students in the state of Illinois that had this honor, both boys and girls, and Emma was one of them. So I'd like to honor her with that. Let's give her a round of applause.
She's still at the time.
Not really. I mean, I'll just say very quickly, you know, an athlete like this comes around usually once in a lifetime. I've been coaching for 34 years, and I mean, she's just a joy to be around. She's very easy to coach, very coachable young lady, and I feel very privileged to have been with her for this number of years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, I know we're very proud to have you. Thank you. Just want to wish our high school students the best of luck as they head into final exams, and the end is almost near for our staff. Just hang in there a few more days, and I want to wish everybody a happy holiday. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Parker, for that report. Okay, we'll now move into the public participation portion of the meeting. And actually, I'm going to ask if there's anyone who would like to address the board on any topics at this point. Anyone? All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting. And we'll now move into information and discussion. The first thing, board, on the list is, once again this month, you have a list of school activity report with the accounts that were available for your board, for your review in the board packet. Were there any questions regarding those student activity accounts this month? No? Okay. All right. The next item on the list would be the high school random drug testing report for the month of November. That was available in your packet for review. Were there any questions regarding the results in the packet? Okay.
No, but I do have one question. You know, sometimes kids get tested more than one time. And we just, when you take so much hair out, especially, you know, if it's a girl, I guess a boy too, what happens if they are called again? How do you manage that when you're taking
Just have to go to a different location, go back to the head, do our best, the best we possibly can with it. We will, since it is a random test, we will have to take more hair from the second sample.
more hair? The second sample?
When they come back for a
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I thought you meant more than the first time.
No,
You just
no,
meant more in
same.
addition to it. No, that's fine. That's not. Well, actually, when you take hair, can you take it from, does it have to be from one spot, or can you take it from multiple so you can't see it? Okay,
And
so you can
especially
height.
girls here are trying to lift it up and layer it underneath is what the nurses are doing, so.
So the nurses are, they're helping. Okay, got it. Thanks.
And do they ask the student what they prefer?
Yes, we, one of the very, try once they're comfortable, we kind of ask them, where is it that you want us to go, the location? It's, with girls, it's pretty simple. They want it right here on the back so nobody can see it. You layer it underneath it, so.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, the next thing we have is Mr. Fairchild and the instructional leadership team from Banner Elementary School is here with us tonight, and they're going to provide us with the presentation.
Okay. I was going to have them all come up and start. No, go ahead. I'm excited to share with you a lot of things that are going on at Banner, and I'm going to flip through some things fairly quickly. I know you have a lot of graphs in front of you as well too, but it's a great school, we have a great staff. But so I've kind of organized this in kind of segments of four. I'm going to talk after I give you our demographics and a little bit about us. I'm going to talk a little bit about our academics, what we're doing for improvement in academics, what we're doing for improvement in behavior, a little bit about technology in our building, and then what makes Banner unique, some of the neat things we're doing for the community, and just some activities. So it's just a snapshot. It's hard to capture it all, but I'll try to do that as brief as I can for you. So here's our instructional leadership team. See if they want to stand back there real quick. I won't make you talk. It's all right. There's our Courtney Conley, kindergarten. Yeah. Nikki Haley's our first grade teacher. Stacy Winslow, second grade. Third grade, Beth Schluter. Fourth grade, Sheila Hudson. And fifth grade, Shelley Young. So it's a great teacher. We've got every grade level represented. So they gave me some, we worked hard this summer to kind of come up with our school improvement plan. So thank you. Here is our staff. We have 78 staff members, and we have a life skills program at Banner, which has a lot of high need students. If you look at it, if you just take, I won't take too much time with this, but we've got 15 classroom teachers, and if you count up all of the, actually 18 with our life skills as well, and we have 26 aides in the building. Those are many one-on-one aides for those life skills programs, some students in general classrooms that require assistance through IEP. So a fairly large staff mixed with a lot of non-certified with certified staff members. Putting this down on paper really, that's a fairly big staff. So, all right, real quickly, and this was just kind of a fun thing. At the very beginning of the year, I gave the teachers a selfie stick, and I said, okay, every team, just so you're going to get just a quick snapshot. Here's our selfie. This is the office staff selfie, and I told them to be silly and have fun with it. So just these are just real quick. I don't think you can see these on your slides, but there's our first grade team, our second grade team, and third grade, and fourth grade, fifth grade, and then some of our specials are our life skills 1 classroom, 2, and there's our life skills 3. Yeah, they had a lot of good time with that. And you're not, the object of the selfie stick is not to be able to see the stick, but I gave her a hard time about that. So, resource team, our music team, our art team, and then our awesome lunch team right there too. I took that actually, selfie stick. So there's our team in a nutshell. As far as student school, we have anywhere between 380 and 400 students given the week and whatnot. There's the breakdown of our demographics. About 1/5 of our students are the Asian population. 70% of our students are white. Our low income is at 10%. This year we do have title funds afforded us, and we have an aide that's been helping out. It's been tremendous help. Our ELL population is about 7%, and several countries and languages spoken there. But there's our breakdown. Okay, so now let's go into the academic portion here. a lot of things going on. So at the beginning of the school year, and I'm not going to bore you with all of the data, but this is one of the first snapshots we looked at as a school improvement team. Everybody looks at our park scores, but we also looked at our STAR data and broke it down in a couple different ways. So we had our math and our reading broken down here to help guide us in what can we do as grade levels for school improvement. So this was like whole group, and every grade level kind of breaks theirs down even more. So this is some of the data that we looked at as we started to develop our plan. Park data. This is our whole school. So the top graph represents 2016, the bottom is 2015. If you recall, I think from last meeting we talked about that the test was different in 15 than it was in 16. We were, as an entire building, we were 59% meeting or exceeding, right there at the average of the district, which was at 58. Compared to the year before, we were at 64, so we did drop down a little bit. I think everybody, it was pretty same with the district, but we declined just a little bit there. But there's the two different years, but two different tests. We feel like this is more about the baseline here to see where we're going to get going. So then, we broke it down by grade levels as well, and we matched, you can look at our, so there's the top three graphs, our third, fourth, and fifth grade, ELA, that's the English language arts, so the reading, and the bottom three graphs are the math, and you can see one grade level is significantly lower than the other ones. That would be our fourth grade, which they are current fifth graders this year. That is a group that does struggle. We have a lot of high needs in that classroom. It's a large classroom, and we've experienced some move-ins and a lot of social-emotional issues with that particular class in general for some reason. And we're very grateful that we have a little more counseling time this year, so we appreciate that you approved that last year. So can't have enough of that, so that's a big help. So
I have a question. On that, you mentioned that your fourth graders were lower. Is that district-wide, or does that tend to be just your building?
I think just my building.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just my building. You just occasionally get pockets of it's hard to say, and you know, when you only have 60 kids, and one student is quite a bit of a percent. We had about 50 or 60 kids last year in fourth grade.
And as we go forward and the park stays the same, you look at that longitudinally, so you'll measure the fourth grade as they progress, right? Instead of, okay.
Yeah. So, all right, this one might give you a headache looking at this. This was, Heather Bowman showed us this graph here. Let me just explain. I know it looks like, what in the world are they looking at here? My third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers really enjoy looking at this graph. What this is essentially is from left to right, all those numbers and letters on the bottom, those are particular standards and goals that kids were tested on. All the way to the left, those were the easiest standards, and all the way to the right were the most difficult standards. Oh, I'm sorry, backwards. Most difficult to the easiest standards. And we are the banners, the little orange triangle, and so we looked at this and we wanted to see where we landed in relation to the state, in relation to the district, and cross states, interstate. So this is just a sample. This was our fourth grade math last year, and so our teachers really have gotten a chance to really dive into some of those more specific areas that need improvement. So this was a really, so we had one of these for each grade level for math and for ELA. And they could say, and they were like, what? I don't understand why this one's bad. And like they had some celebrations and some areas where they felt like they could probably focus in a little bit better. So it looks confusing, but this was really a fun graph for them. They liked that.
And those are across all subject matters?
No, math.
Oh, just math.
This one is math, but there's one for reading.
Oh, cool.
And also, for every grade level.
And just reading and math?
Yeah, park. This is park.
Oh, park. Okay.
Yeah, this is park. Sure is. Now, so park is just third, fourth, and fifth. But we've also this year, and I can't take credit for this idea, but we also have another way that we're looking at data. Let's see if I can pull it up here. We have what's called our RTI 360, and I deleted all the names, but essentially, sometimes we look at kids, we look at just their STAR score, we look just at their park score. Well, what we've created is a spreadsheet, and here were the names of the students. Here's the classes that they're in, their genders, and we look at kids in 3 different ways. We look at math. So, for instance, in 4th grade, we took their math quarter grade, and we turned that into a Z-score. We took their math star score, turned it into a Z-score. Same with PARC. And then we took all the Z-scores and combined it into one math Z-score. And it's basically looking at that kid instead of just with one data point, with 3 data points. And then we sort them and make sure that we're hitting the kids that need to get that assistance. Because you might have some kids that score well in the start, but they don't perform very well in class. And it's also a good indicator for teachers to say, gosh, this kid got a 97 in my class, but didn't do well in the star, or vice versa. It was just good data to kind of to look for that. We do the same with reading, and we do the same with behavior. Behavior, we're still working on that. We do teachers 3 times a year rate students on their social emotional status, and so we do as well. We're going to add into that office referrals too, just give them a full picture of these kids. So this, we have a tab for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So everybody can kind of see where their kids fall. It also helps us too to make sure we identifying the kids that need the help, or are we over-identifying.
And do you have time to look at those longitudinally, like if a kid starts slipping and has been performing higher, or does that take too much time?
Well, what we'll do is I'll update it 3 times a year, every time we take our STAR assessment. So that's what we'll look at.
Okay.
So
But
it's a one snapshot during
I
that
see.
time.
Mhm.
So it's not live.
Not year
so to
after year,
speak.
yeah.
That makes sense, yeah. But when teachers looked at it, we saw some kids that were up in the middle that were getting title assistance. Right? Maybe they don't need help, but maybe kids that were lower that were not. So it was just a good aha. Basically looking
Are
at that.
other elementary schools doing the exact same assessment?
Well, I'll have to let you know. Todd Jefferson, he saw this at a conference,
Sorry,
and I stole this idea
Jefferson.
from him. And I know other schools have looked at it, absolutely, but we're just kind of playing around with it, just another way of looking at data. So, but I think it was a good picture for our kids. So our school improvement plans, really we have 3 goals. One related to reading, one related to math, and one related to behavior. I don't want to go through all of it, but essentially, in order for teachers to earn a distinguished and excellent in a rating for our student growth component, students, we need to have a score of 66. Our building was at 58, so we were like, let's go for the 4. So what we did was essentially our goal was to try to get that student growth percentile at 66 in both reading and math. That's the goal. That's what we'd like to strive for. So every grade level has that goal, and then they have their own action plans that they do. I won't share all those with you, but they've got their own goals on how they're going to attack and improve those scores. So there's the math one as well too. I'm going to go through all of them. I think you have copies of those with you. All right, behavior. I don't want to go too much into the BIST. I think I talked to you about BIST way back in June or July. I want to tell you a little bit about BIST, but not a whole lot, because I think Todd and I may be presenting sometime in the near future of how things are going. So our 3rd goal is the behavior goal, implementing BIST to help our learning environment and help students out socially and emotionally. And I think I told you we had 6 teachers from Banner go to this training. And throughout the school year, we've had a presenter, a consultant come visit with both Banner's and Ridgeview's teachers, going through the strategies and brainstorming on how to help students and correct behavior. So part of, and again, I'm going to be very basic, but part of the BIST philosophy is they have 3 levels of triage. They call it building triage, classroom triage, and individual triage. Basically, triage is kind of checking on kids, making sure they're okay. We have changed how we do our morning duty, and the goal for BIST is for every student to be greeted at least 3 to 4 times prior to going into the classroom. And so we've added some more people in the foyer area, and the door they come in, our counselors, we're trying to hit every kid as often, just in saying good morning to them. And there's been times where we can tell someone's not feeling well, and maybe they had something went on at home. And right then there, we've got our counselor, and she can take him or her and help them and maybe get their day started off better. So it's been good. So anyway, more to come on that. But another thing we did to start off the beginning of the school year, our BIST committee got together, and we, day one, we had every grade level go to seven different stations. And at those stations, they talked with somebody there, and we went over what the expectations were. So, for instance, up in the upper left-hand corner, I was the bus outside, and so I talked about bus rules and bus expectations. We had the next picture. I won't go over all of these, but the next picture we had. We told students how to greet an adult when they come in the building. When an adult says good morning to you, how do you respond to them? We just assume kids know how to say good morning and look eye to eye. And Mrs. Begner, our counselor, talked to kids about what that should look like. And they modeled, and had kids model. We had the playground people talk about playground expectations. Mr. Berkeley talked about keeping the bathroom clean. just all sorts of things that we assume kids know, and they should know, but it was a good start to the year. And actually, our leadership team is meeting tomorrow. We're going to do a version of this coming back in January, just to kind of regroup and reset. Because again, we kind of think that kids just know the rules. Most of them do, but it's good just to kind of go over those expectations again. This poster is in every one of our classrooms. These are just our expectations, and we have kids say these every morning. We do a little chant with it, and so we've always had those first three, but we had it with the BIST because it's never okay to be disruptive. It's never okay to be hurtful. That's when we will. That's when we will take action against a student if they're being hurtful or disruptive. And action looks, all kinds of different ways. But okay, technology. Okay, moving from behavior to technology. So just these are just FYIs. We've got about 60 iPads in our building. They're all PTO purchased. We have a little PTO and a little bit of activity money as well. We have about 90 Chromebooks, 3 carts, and our PTO has helped purchase 2 of those carts. Not fully, but they've helped quite a bit. So that's the amount of technology that we have that's used quite often. We're kind of excited about a possible rollout and bringing some more Chromebooks into the building too. They're being used quite a bit, and our teachers are doing a great job of dabbling into some of the technology with Google Docs. Obviously, Canvas this is my Canvas page, and my Canvas page is exciting. It's kind of a warehouse for teachers to go to. I've got my faculty meeting agendas, the handbooks, resources for teachers, and not real exciting, but I put a couple of discussions on there as well. But I'm excited to see what the staff's going to do pretty soon during the next year or two. Okay, we're going to shift now to what makes Banner unique, just some unique experiences. You saw that we had Charlotte's Park. I don't know if you ever get by to go there and drive it, just check it out. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. But here's some things. PTO, here are all the things, and I won't read them all off, but PTO does so much to support our teachers and our kids, and all the money they raise really goes back to the classroom, back to the teachers. And so these are just a few things that they do. But they support our teachers in so many ways. Our teachers, I know they really, truly appreciate all that they do for us. We had a talent show. That's over there on the right, those 2 pictures up there. They're doing a karate show, and another girl's doing a dance. And so that was just this past November we had a talent show. I talked about our Life Skills program, and one thing about our Life Skills program, if you don't know, we have 3 classrooms, a K1, a 2, 3, and a 4, 5. It is a privilege for the Gen Ed kids to come in and help and work with them. It's really a great exchange. It's a win-win for everybody. So as you can see the big picture with the kids, there's 5th graders in there helping. They're doing an activity this is like their adaptive PE class. Over on the right, the kids are doing a cooking, and we had some Gen Ed kids working with them there too. But it's when you walk into our building, if you were to walk in our building any day, you'll see all sorts of things that are shocking. You'll see maybe someone running down the hallway, yelling out, and I hate to say it, but a student walked out with his pants off today in the bathroom. And our students are, or somebody yelling, and the Gen Ed students are, it's not shocking to them. They're passionate. That does not bother them. Our staff is like, they see something and they just help them back in. And it really is, if you have a chance to come to see what they do, I'm so glad we have those kids at Banner. Here are some things that we've done to give back to the community this year and in years past. So this past October, actually, Courtney Conley spearheaded this. We did a Socktober and collected over 687 socks, and I think there was actually more than that. That was the one of the totals. So we gave back in October. We did our Macaroni Mountain. There is our Macaroni Mountain right there. We had kids collect Macaroni Mountain for 4 days, nearly 2,000 boxes of mac and cheese, and that was a great event. It's nice to see something visual, and then that was the class that collected the most mac and cheese, and they got to load the truck. Second grade historically does a canned food drive. They do that in the spring semester, and so every classroom is involved. The second grade kind of spearheads it. It's one of their community units. And here's one of our, they're all our favorites, but this is one of our biggest ones, our children's home collection. We have, since 2008, we've collected over $40,000, and I'd like to change that. Tomorrow we go on our shopping trip, and this year we set a record of collecting over $6,400. Our parents have collected that much. So what do we do on this trip? We collect all this money, and then we take the entire school. We're having all our kids getting on the bus. We're going, half of them are going to Target, half of them are going to Toys R Us. They know how much they can spend. They're going to buy these toys, and then we go right. We take the bus to the children's home, drop them off under the Christmas tree, and head back. So it is a huge, one of our huge events that we're doing. That is tomorrow. And Ms. Parker, or Dr. Parker,
I
was
have.
last year.
I've been a couple times. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's great.
Yeah. She got to experience that as well.
I think we all went last year, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you guys went too. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right.
And I'll be going tomorrow too.
Are you going tomorrow? All right, fantastic. All right, well, good tomorrow. But anyway, that's tomorrow. Big day tomorrow. Big day. Last year we started our St. Jude Laps for Life and collected nearly $6,000 for that event. That was in the spring. Just, you know, our kids our community in general is just so giving, and we just want to share what Banner's doing to help that out. And this is one of our last ones, last slide I have for you, but our 5th grade does what's called the Kid Knits program, and we've been doing this for probably 4 or 5 years, I'm guessing. And essentially, in a nutshell, our PTO funds this, but our kids learn about third world countries, and this yarn is actually purchased from 2 different third world countries that they're single women, and this helps fund them so they can be successful in what they're doing. And what the kids do, they're making hats, and then at the end of the unit, they vote on who to donate the hats to. And so in the past week, one year we donated them to a Russian orphanage. 1 year to the help me out, Shelley. Military, yeah.
The Children's Hospital, the Red Cross.
Yeah, so the kids kind of go around that. So anyway, those are a few of the things that Banner Unique. We're excited about the things that are happening, and so just maybe if you have any questions.
Well, gosh, aside from curriculum, I just think what a neat environment that you provide to your students. I mean, you know, you're welcoming and it's inviting, and there's a sense of belonging and giving back. I just think that's really neat. Thank you.
I have to second that too. That's the whole child, which we talk a lot about, and it's beyond the academics. And particularly impressive is the community, the demonstration of community service at such a young age. That's probably going to stay with the kids. And I have a connection with Children's Home. And I don't know if you remember when I first moved back, I came with the director to meet with you, right? Because your school is really a role model for the Children's Home, and they use that to try to engage other schools to, you know, engage with Children's Home, but nothing's matched what you guys have done. So that's really impressive.
It's really our parents. I mean, all we do is tell the kids about it, and it's our parents that really come through and make this. I think the Children's Home, there are times where I think that they rely on, they look forward to this. They called me a month ago, when are you coming?
Right.
And they want us to come earlier, and I said, well, our date is set with it. This is the date that we could come. And they said, okay, we'll make our change, and because I think that they like getting all those things.
Right, and then they can, disperse it out to the foster kids, so
And
that's
it is
great.
great, and you're not the only school, I don't want to just say you're, but just to get the kids out there to the store, to go buy a gift for the needy, they, after a while, it's ingrained and become an adult. Still got to do that.
It's, every school is doing community service. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we're doing a lot of great things in every single school. This is just one of ours that's been around for a long time, and it's just amazing how we keep the amount of money that keeps growing and growing. I thought this might be a tougher year with things that are going on in the community, and no, we set a record of $6,400. It's pretty impressive. So.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think it's, you have a great building, great staff, and I mean, when I come to Banner, and I've had multiple kids go through Banner, and I have one that's there now, but it's just such a welcoming experience to what you were saying, Beth, and I just feel like it's like the first day every day. You know how the first day of school, everybody's out, and everybody's welcoming, and everybody's so happy to see everybody. Well, Banner's like that almost every day. Like, you see people outside every day, and Mr. Fairchild's greeting kids and seeing them off when they leave and when they come, and so it's just like the first day every day. So I just want to say thank you to you and for your staff for all that you do. So it's a great place to be. Yes, absolutely. Any other questions? Yeah. Thank you so much for presenting, and thank you to your leadership team for coming and sharing with us.
They're a great team.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I told you to go Christmas shopping.
Okay. You have important things to do. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, board, we'll now move into information regarding revisions to board policies that were available for the board's review. Again, we had quite a few this month, but these that are in your book were just for information and discussion. Were there any questions regarding any specific policies that were listed? We'll have time to review those. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out, and we can also bring it up at the next meeting if need be.
I think there were a couple that I can just send out those questions. They're kind of specific for language.
Okay.
We can do that through email.
Okay, very good. I know, once again, there's quite a few there, but a lot of them are just language changes and just a few additions to policies we already have in our book. So if you have anything else, please, get in touch with Lisa or Karen, and we can try to get those things answered before the next meeting. The next thing in our packet that we have is information regarding the CEPCO hiring survey for fall 2017. And Mrs. Bond is here to answer any questions regarding that. You want to just give us a little bit of information regarding the survey?
Sure. The CEPCO hiring survey is something that we do every year. It basically looks at all of the services that CEPCO provides and all the services that Dunlap has chosen to take over throughout the years. It's changed significantly from the time I started with CEPCO back in, 2001 or whatever, where CEPCO used to provide all the teachers for all of our programs. Since then, we now employ all of our teachers except for one that is still a holdout in CEPCO, and through when she chooses to leave or go somewhere else, then we will hire for her position. But there are just, the only positions left that CEPCO still provides are, of course, all the administrative costs for the cooperative and for us, as well as OTPT, some of the consultant areas, adaptive PE, some of the work experience things, and things of those sort. Other than those things, we've employed those individuals for about 5 or 6 years now.
And what about other school districts around us? What do they do? Do they do the same thing we do, or?
The 17 districts within the cooperative really vary. Some of those districts still have CEPCO hired teachers in them. They slowly are trying to back off of that and hire those teachers on their own. But all of the districts, as far as I'm aware of, do rely on CEPCO for consulting, OTPG, of course, all the administrative costs and a lot of the other things. Many of them still rely on CEPCO for speech pathologists. We hire our own. So it just varies between the districts, how big they are, what kind of funding balance they have, and how much ownership they want to have in their own hiring.
And does District 150 use them?
No,
That's
District
what I
150
thought.
is all their own.
All in-house?
All in-house. So the hiring survey this year is exactly like the hiring survey from last year. We're hoping to be provided that via board approval, we'll receive those same services. One thing to note, on the hiring survey is the consultant. This year, we were only given 50% of a consultant because that's all that CEPCO can provide. And I communicated with CEPCO, letting them know that we absolutely need a full-time consultant next year again, so they will do that. The challenge is that we keep getting a different consultant every year, and that makes it very difficult when you have a new person coming on board, learning how Dunlap does things, and building relationships with staff and administration and getting to know the kids. It is quite a challenge to have CEPCO provide that consultant for us, but we absolutely need it because we don't currently have that position here in Dunlap. So that's just one challenge that we have with that particular position.
And is there any way they can provide the same person to have some consistency?
Really wish they could, but no. The way they grow and they change and they also grow from within. The current person we have is a part-time administrator at Peoria Heights and then does consulting for us. She's exceptional, and they're going to have her be a full-time administrator for CEPCO next year. So then that brings someone else new into the mix. So it's just, as they grow their employees, we don't get the same ones from year to year. Any questions?
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
Okay, board, next we have Mr. Kreider. Mr. Kreider is going to present some information regarding the activities code, answer any questions.
Okay, your information item on the activities code, the information that we gathered provided my team. We looked at all the schools in Mid-Atlantic to see what their practice was, and schools that were very comparable to Dunlap as well. And I think the two things that we really wanted to improve upon in our code was the language of in the presence of and how we go about the investigation process in the code. So what I did in the information item was list all the schools and what they do in their code. And some have changed over the last couple of years, and people are slowly adapting in their code. So once we got through that, we took a look at all that as a high school administrative staff, and we also discussed it in the athletic leadership team. And at the end of those conversations, a couple of things became very, very clear. The first one was we did see a difference in the language that we currently have with the attendance of a party where there's underage drinking. We've seen an increase in this over the last few years, but the difference between actually drinking at the party versus the attendance. And that's where the language in the presence of came up. The overall feel from both groups was that we do see that the penalty or the result needs to be different. So our recommendation was in the presence of at a party would be 1/4 code violation versus the 33 or the 3rd% where you're actually ticketed for drinking at a party. So that was the first recommendation that we are making. And the second one, or the last one, the determination of offense, we really feel like going with the police report or a self-admission, something that's actual on paper instead of just hearsay or rumor or anonymous emails or whatever the case may be, strengthens our case and our decisions. And a lot of good conversation on it from both groups. Again, from the high school administrative team, appreciate Mr. Adrian and with his experience at other schools and bringing in his opinions on it. And I think we came to a consensus on how we wanted to change the language in our policies, and I'll certainly answer any and all questions that I can.
Would this, if this is approved, is it for this year or next school year?
It'll be for next year.
Next school year.
So you're saying students would only be coded if there was a ticket? Or at a self-admission?
Correct.
And now it's broader than that?
There's no difference right now whatsoever. If you are in attendance at a party,
No, I understand.
it is a third of the seat.
Okay.
But
you would.
But yeah, I was going to say, but the
The second
circumstances
part.
where you would determine if a student was present at a party, if there wasn't a ticket, there were other allegations that you would use to determine whether to code the person. And now you're just doing self.
Absolutely.
They don't have to have a ticket to be in presence of, they can be on the police
Right.
report. Okay, I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And so do they have to be on the police report?
Or self-admission.
Or self-admission.
That would be the information we would use, rather than other testimony.
So then hypothetically, if there was testimony that student X was present, and then the officer calls them in and they deny it, then you can't code them, because there's no self-admission.
I mean, the only
I think it
troubling
protects
part-
us if it's in the report.
Yeah.
Or if they come in and they say it, which a lot of times the kids do. I mean, good for them.
I'm not getting it. I don't know. So the troubling part is a kid who admits and is honest gets punished when the kid who lies doesn't. And I don't know if there's any way to.
Can you clarify, okay, so say you're at a party, you go to a party to pick somebody up because they're drunk, they can't drive, and you walk in there, police show up, but you're not drinking, you haven't drank, you get breathalyzed, you're on the police report because you're at the party, what happens?
Currently, and if you are on that police report, and you're at that party, it would be a code violation.
Right. New,
For
fast forward.
1/3, currently you'd be 1/3 of the correct.
Right.
New
No
policy
question,
is
1/3.
1/4.
New way,
Exactly. New way, in that same scenario, if they were on the police report, they were there to pick up, and that was the testimony given, it would go down to 1/4 of the season, just being in the presence of.
But it sounds like you're adding maybe a lot for a student to get out of the situation. You could look at that and say they just got there or whatever too, right?
Right.
How do you define reasonable? And I think I asked the same question to Lisa, because I'm reading here where you're adding a reasonable amount, the same thing you're talking about, Brian. A reasonable amount of time may be allotted for a student to remove him or herself from the situation.
I don't know if we want to pinpoint like with an actual time. Scott and I actually had this conversation today. To me, if a student somehow is dropped off or they show up, they walk in, it could be a house, where they're watching TV or whatever, and there's a bonfire going on in the back, and, they might be there for 15 or 20 minutes, but if they see what's going on and they leave, I think that's reasonable. And I think that's part of the investigation process that goes into, that we'll continue to use if they show up on the report. I think my experience over the last 5 years in doing this, if they end up on that police report, the officers do have them take the breathalyzer all on spot. So if they show up with a 0, on there and they were just there in the presence of, again, that would be a 1/4. If you're actual drinking, it would be a 1/3. But if you go in and you see it and you realize it's wrong, you make a phone call or you turn around and leave, then you made the right decision. We're not going to code it.
not at all. Okay, so, because this discussion, actually, we talked about this probably right when you came on, and I remember you and Mr. Welsh were sitting out there, and I had called around just to other districts and other states. Some do give leeway, like 10, 15 minutes for a kid to be there to realize what's going on, say to themselves, I should get out of here, make the right choice, and that person wouldn't get in trouble. Some schools, obviously, you can be there as long as you're not drinking. In the situation that I just explained, which happened a couple of years ago, people came to a party, police were watching them, saw the students walk in, you might remember this, saw the students walk in, police walked in, wouldn't let them leave, even though they saw them just get in, breathalyzed 0, and they received an athletic code violation. So in that sense, if this would happen again in that same manner, that would be reasonable, they would not receive a code violation, correct?
If you're in that specific situation, a little bit differently. When they walked through the front yard, there was stuff all over the yard, there was stuff on the deck, there was stuff in the living room. They went downstairs and stayed for a few minutes. There was stuff downstairs, well, when I say stuff, I'm saying alcohol, beverages everywhere. Then the party was busted. Everybody there was on the report, including those two that came in late. And they did state, yes, we were there to pick up a friend that was drunk, but according to our code, they were in the presence of, and again, I think if you go back to that situation, everybody there could have been there to pick up somebody.
Yeah.
You know,
But you're going to use your judgment to define reasonable.
But can you give me an example where 6 would apply? I'm trying to figure out how that would apply with a reasonable amount of time that they could be there, but if they show up on a police report, that's the only way, either self-admit or police report, right? I'm just trying to figure out where a situation where you think this would arise where there is a reasonable amount of time. Somebody comes in and says, I was there, but I left. I mean, because if they're there, then they're on the police report, what happens then? I don't know if that really, if that applies.
They're in the presence of, they're on that police report.
Okay, so I'm asking, so when would you ever find out when that it happened, that somebody was there for 10 minutes? When would you ever know that?
You know, and again, in the past, dealing with those, I'm not sure how it's worked here, obviously, but kids would say I was only there for 20 minutes or I was only there for 15 minutes, I showed up. When we hear that from other kids, we don't hear that from a police report. But now that we have a police report.
But I mean, so right now, you're gonna, if another kid says, hey, so-and-so was there, but he wasn't on the police report, what I'm saying, if another kid says that, you're not gonna be able to pull that kid in anyway, right? Based upon the new criteria?
Not on this, no.
I just don't see how, I'm just asking the question, does that language, does it apply in any situation? Would it ever apply?
If you had a student, if a student came in and said so-and-so was at a party, you would call that student in and ask them, right?
Ask them.
Yeah.
But we would have nothing unless they said, yeah, I was
But
there.
then it would be up to that student to say yes or no. That way you're not having a student, you're not going off just that student's
Right,
word.
you're gonna follow their leads, but you're not gonna give them any consequence based on the other student's testimony.
I guess my question, I know you're relying on the report, the police report, in order to get those names and to have that information, and then obviously asking the student, if you hear something else, that you're asking them, that you're self-admittal. But what about, I mean, in this day of social media, I think that was something that we've experienced before, where there may not be a police report, and there may not be, the student would bring in actually pictures. When there are pictures of students, they post it themselves, and so parents are sending in pictures and like, hey, my kid got in trouble. There's 3 other kids on this picture that did not get coded. You know what I mean? I mean, kids are right there. So that's kind of hard, to deal with from our standpoint when you have that kind of proof and then you have parents.
It is, and in my experience dealing with attorneys on that, photos don't work. Because, I've had parents say, yeah, there was Sprite in that beer bottle, or they were drinking whatever. That's what our attorneys have told me in the past. You can't convict them, or you can't punish them unless you know for sure it was alcohol. And the only way we've been able to do that concretely is say to the police report, is there, or through their admission, they were drinking.
So
You would call those kids down if you got pictures or whatever.
Well, so let's say somebody showed up on the police report, but they weren't drinking, they were breathalyzed, it was 0, and then you bring them in to talk to them, and they say, well, I was only there for 10 minutes to pick up so-and-so. I just got there. So what would you do in that situation?
And the breathalyzer was 0?
I mean, the way the new language would read, in my opinion.
No, but they got the 0.
Right.
And if they said they're going to miss a quarter of the season, under that scenario, or are you going to be able to go to this default and somebody says, well, I was only there for 10 minutes? And then you become subjective. I'm just saying it gets kind of subjective at that point.
I completely agree.
To me, I think, if they are there and the party gets busted, and even if they do blow a 0, to me, they're in the presence of.
So that's the core. So that won't even, if somebody comes and says, I just got there, you're going to say, no, it's 25% of the season, right? So my question is, does this ever will this ever arise, this reasonable amount of time? I'm trying to figure out, how is that ever going to happen? Do you need to have that language?
If I had to guess, this creates some discretion. So in that situation, so that you aren't so locked in.
Well, then it
There's
makes it
that-
subjective too, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, or discretionary, I mean,
Well,
it's a
currently,
discretion.
we subjectively decide whether or not, based on the evidence, whether they reasonably left in time or they stayed for a while.
Well, no, but you're gonna go, now I like it, you're going by police report
Right.
or on some list, I get that, so it's definitive, right?
Right.
And then I'm just trying to say, then we're getting definitive there, and then we're being subjective on this other one. I just don't know if this would ever apply, because you're not gonna interrogate kids if they're not on a police report, right?
Well, unless, once we talk to the kids who are involved, the other kids become,
But if they're not on a police report, really, at that point, does it matter?
well, then you call them in, you say, hey, this is gonna be there, participation, and then you find.
Let the kids know, hey, I was only there for 10 minutes or whatever.
Well, then if other people verify that, you're trying not to.
I get it, I'm just trying to keep,
Do your due diligence.
I get it, I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't become so subjective that it gets you guys in trouble, like this kid was there and then
Well,
this.
it's only exact science that they tell the truth.
Right.
But that's why, that's why I kind of like to go into the police report, breathalyzer, and if you're on the police report, whether you're drinking or not, you're gonna miss a quarter, right? That's definitive. Then I just think it gets a little bit kind of gray with this other one personally.
Yeah, I worry about it too.
Yeah, and I guess that was my question too about the picture, because even if it's not a legal situation where we can prove that you're actually drinking alcohol, we can just give you reasonable doubt that there was Sprite in the cup, but you still were in the presence. And so this kid got coded, and the other kid left or ran out the back door, so they didn't make the police report, but we still have a picture and they're in the presence and they're in the room. I just feel like there may be still a little bit of work somewhere in how we determine that, or, I mean, and I understand it's a moving target. It's something that's hard to try to get all the factors, and there's always a case where this could happen or that could happen. I just know that with social media being so big. And
Yeah, so
kids
what would you do
post so
there? So if you had a
much
picture of some
that-
kid drinking a beer and it's a picture, and what do we do
Well,
then?
you're talking about a couple of different things. If Dawn's, what I'm trying to interpret what Dawn's saying is, if it's confirmed through a police report that in the picture was alcohol, that's different than us getting just pictures of students doing things. I mean,
Or
it's
in
already
the
been
presence.
confirmed legally, that was alcohol, then absolutely we have the authority to go about, you're in the presence of.
Okay.
But if it's just a picture, there's no confirmation that there was alcohol there or illegal drinking, then we would, we wanted to recourse.
Okay. So I think you answered my question. So,
Yeah.
so that picture would technically be enough for you to say, wait a minute, they're,
Absolutely, yeah, if the
it's in the
police had been
picture.
there, yeah.
So just being on so them
Yes.
not being on the police report would not be enough to excuse from all kinds of punishment or discipline.
Right. I mean, because the police report confirms it was alcohol, the picture would confirm that they were there.
Okay.
In the absence of a police report and some kid was on social media drinking a beer, what would you do then? Nothing?
I don't think you can do anything. I really don't. I mean,
You would question them,
what's
right?
that?
You would
Yeah,
call them and
them,
question
ask
them.
But I mean, I don't think we can.
That's what you do today?
We can't assume that
You
was
don't-
alcohol. Even though it clearly, we believe it would be, you can't make that connection.
Did somebody doctor that photo? Did somebody do something that you're trying to get somebody else in trouble? And we've had anonymous emails before, pictures, and, from just anonymous Google accounts. And I just don't think you want to pursue that because you don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I see exactly what you're saying, Brian and Teresa. A lot of us have concerns by having that discretionary wiggle room in there. It helps the student in a scenario where they just pulled up to the party, the neighbor called the cops, they aren't sitting, laying in wait to go in. They just pulled up to pick up someone who said, you gotta get me out of here. They walk in the door, the police come 2 minutes later, they're trying to find their friend, because they know drinking's, and they're trying to get out of there. But then if they're on the police report, that's it. So they're gonna get coded for a quarter of a season, and that's not a good situation, right? So that gives you the discretion. But by the same token, you can start a slippery slope, and then that opens the door for every student's parents to argue that, well, you let that kid off before, so it's a double-edged sword.
Right, but the one important thing of this that I do appreciate, that they do have some discretion, but the one important thing is that if that kid was not drinking, then that's the only way you have this piece of discretion.
Well, right.
Right, because if you were drinking, it doesn't matter how long you were there, you're on that police report and that's pretty solid. So it's just, you had to have been innocent to some degree because you would have had a zero on the test. So then that discretion just leaves a little bit of room that if you know, if you were there to pick up somebody, or if you said you didn't realize there was alcohol there, that's the only way you can even have that argument. You know, so it's only the kids that didn't partake in any of this that even could have that amount of, you know, discretion or subjectivity given. So it's not, you know, it's not there for everybody. You know, if you were drinking, that's pretty much solid.
And
Yeah,
so
this wouldn't apply.
Washington and Morton just recently changed their policies, and now if somebody was just in the presence of alcohol, are they not coded at all?
Or Metamora, right?
Right, Metamora is a little bit different. You're talking with their athletic director, a little bit of clarification. Because when I initially read Metamora's, I was under the impression that if you are in the presence of, you are coded. That is not the case. The way they interpreted at Metamora is the host individual is the one that would be coded. So if it's your house and you're hosting a party, drinking or not drinking, it's a code violation. But if you are there, frankly, the athletic director said they encourage their student athletes to seek out a police officer and ask to take breathalyzers if they do below the zero and they were intended to stay, do not have in presence of, there's no code violation.
And so do you feel like having some violation, the 25% for being in the presence, do you feel like that's a huge deterrent, that there are a lot of kids that are not going to parties because they know that they will get coded even if they're there and not drink? Do you think it's a deterrent?
It's a risk reward, but it gives those kids who don't want to go a reason not to go. Mm-hmm. It gives those kids who are on the fence, you know, I got athletics or I'm in madrigals coming up. I really want to avoid that. I think that gives them a reason. It gives them a little bit of strength to say no. Okay. And I think that the big thing for us was kids been drinking, kids intoxicated, as opposed to a kid who's been there, not drinking, and they're getting the same penalty.
Right.
Well, no, I think
it should be
that was
less.
a big part of that for us.
I think we all agree with that. I just trying to figure out this other one. I would just rather have it be, if you're on the police report and you were there, and if you weren't drinking, that happens to be a code violation. Outside of that, I think if you have hearsay for some other kid saying this other kid was there and you call them in and they said, well, I just left, I just think that language should just be out personally.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. So what is it?
The reasonable time of leaving a party, I just don't know if it would apply.
So, but you think there should be a 25% penalty for being there in the presence even if you aren't drinking?
No, I agree with the change.
Okay.
I just don't, the reasonable time to get out of there makes,
okay.
that, I just think it's gonna put you guys in some situation where parents are gonna call up and saying they just got there. And
Yeah, I
Do you
think
guys
so
want
too.
that in there? Do you want that reasonable to leave yourself some judgment leeway? Is that why you left it?
I think we have always used that, and I'm speaking with Greg on the fact they've used that discretion to say, okay, let's try to really figure this out. This kid was just there, showed up, realized there's alcohol, leaving, and got. So I think that's only there for the benefit of the student. Now, maybe if the first part is accepted, or the reduction of using the police report to self-admission, maybe the second part doesn't become necessary. I mean,
You can still utilize it.
Sorry?
You still utilize it, is what you're saying. In the past, you've utilized it, you still could, so.
And does everybody feel like the difference in the, I guess, in the discipline that's being rendered, the 4th to the 3rd,
Yeah, I think
33%
it's
to
good,
25%,
yeah.
you feel like that's fair?
I just
In
haven't
the
decided yet.
percentages?
I haven't decided, yeah.
But
I have an
if it's come to the
internal,
academic suspension.
you know,
That's okay.
conflict
What
over
are
it.
you, what's the conflict?
You know, I see the other schools have no penalty for being in the presence, and I'm really personally torn over it. I mean, I even asked my son about it, and his response made me want to have the penalty because he said, I said, what do you think? And he said, well, I don't think there should be a penalty. And I said, why not? And he said, because I want to go to those parties, which made me think that there is a deterrent for some kids, and so he actually made the argument.
well, the longer you're
The other
there, the more peer pressure you're gonna have too.
I know. On the other hand, you want your kids, when they go away to college, you want them to be able to go to a party and not drink, or not drink excessively. So I'm really personally torn on it. I don't know.
But if they're underage and they're at college, they will
No,
get
I know.
coded for being at
Think
a
of the trouble that it keeps them out of if they are intoxicated and drive home.
No, I know.
not only their protection, but I guess others who are.
I just don't know.
I see
I
what
don't
you're
know if
saying.
it stops them.
I just wonder if without putting that in writing, could you still use that discretion, even though it's not written, is what I'm trying to get at. I think I like you having the discretion.
Having it in writing almost kind of creates the atmosphere.
Because
where-
you go to this board and you talk to, I just wonder if you just kind of keep that as an administrative decision as opposed to put it in writing where people can say, I'm on the police report, but I was only there for 10 minutes, my
And
kid
the
shouldn't
only
be.
reason
He didn't have
why-
any time to get out of there.
I guess that would be your decision. I mean, honestly, the only reason why we would have that in there would be for the benefit of the kids. You know, and it does, we understand, it puts our integrity at risk.
Yeah.
You do that, but, you know, at the end of the day, you look at all the information, you try to make the best decision.
Benefit them in which way? Are they going to say, oh, I have a little leeway, I have a few minutes I can pop in and I can leave because it says I'm okay, but what leeway are you, what leeway are you referring to that it offers the students?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
You said it offers the students leeway? In which way?
Well, they'll offer us leeway.
Okay, you, not the student.
Yeah.
I have a recommendation, because I think that the discretion is good on the one hand, and perhaps poses some liability on the other hand by kind of opening up the floodgates. If you do it for one, you got to do it for another. Perhaps this is a quick question for our attorney to determine the risks versus rewards of having that in writing. And it could be just a quick question to Jay Greening.
Yeah, I would take all these
I
these
think that's
thoughts
just-
back to your leadership team, and we've got some time here. This isn't going to be approved until we do the handbook.
I think it's just
taking it out.
the,
Yeah.
it's just
Whatever
the,
you guys
yeah.
wanted, I mean.
One other thing I would.
it's just the
would
discretion
add,
I think that's a
question.
good idea.
Reading through all of these different codes that I have, a majority of them have some type of statement, strong statement about really encouraging students to leave right away. Or, you know, when you look at that last sentence, you know, students are advised to remove themselves from the situation as soon as possible and not return. Whether they have an in-presence of policy or not, a majority of schools have a statement in there just like that, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think it's clear that we support, you know, everything you're recommending, just the concern about the discretionary clause.
And are we continuing to do that survey? Remember that one year we had that survey on substance abuse that was done by, I think it was University of Illinois? Illinois Youth. Oh, yeah. Every other year. So it's just shocking, the number of students that are using alcohol and marijuana. So it doesn't seem to be working.
Okay, so fair enough. So we're going to get a hold of Jay Greening, ask him those questions in the meeting.
I think you're going to take it back. I think we're going to take it back.
I'd take it back to leadership team, just make sure there aren't any changes, and then all the changes that end up in the handbook go to Jay anyway, in March, right, or February or March.
And so we are all in agreement that we could take it out if Jay Greening's okay with that? And would it have to come back? What, it has to come
I
back?
think it's better to making our own decision rather than asking for attorney to make a decision for us.
Yeah, I think Lisa's going to take it back to the leadership team, and they can take our comments and concerns.
We agree with the fourth, but we just,
Yeah.
But thank you. I think this is something we've been talking about for years, and I think many have felt a little bit uncomfortable with the punishment being the same, so I appreciate you taking the effort to pull it apart and work with Mr. Adrian to make something different happen. So.
I do have one more question. Back in the day, kids were, when they were caught, you would have all of a sudden kids going out for a different sport, say swimming or track, but then the coaches were like, well, I don't want to monitor these kids. And so then we went to, it has to be the sport that they were in. So this might be a time to discuss that too, because I am completely okay if a kid has to get out of his sport to do something else, if it's swimming or track, and they're doing that work. I mean, to me, that's payback enough to fulfill their suspension or their code violation.
Currently, our policy does not state that.
Okay, you just did
If,
it.
like, I'll just use, let's say we have a football player that were to be coded right now. And all he's ever done is football. If he wanted to participate in track to serve his code violation, he could do that.
Okay, we're allowing that now because we weren't doing
There's
that.
nothing in our code or our policy that states that.
That's, okay, then it must have been done internally because the last principal
that's what I
was
thought,
like,
too.
they had,
I don't see it.
the athletic department had decided at a meeting, told us that that's what they were doing.
There's some
so.
coaches that get very upset about that.
Right, I can see that.
And there's been some, there's, activities or clubs or different things, but it does have to be not just an activity.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Spring. Okay, the next item we have is Mrs. Bowman will present information regarding the balanced scorecard and answer any questions that we have.
And we don't have a formal presentation, it was more just question and answers.
Right, we had just completed all the updates that were due to be completed at this time, and just if there were any questions you had, we'd be happy to answer those.
It's coming along nicely.
I was just wondering on the goals for the increasing the reserves. We have months listed, and I would think it'd be hard to add a whole month in a year. So would it be better to measure that in days so that you can see if progress is being made over the course of 1 year to increase the reserves? Or do we not even measure it that way?
We measure it by months, but whenever I measure it, it can come out that we have 6.3.
0.3, okay,
Yes,
okay.
so we measure it in tenths. This is just the goal right now that we have set, that we do not want it to go below that.
I see.
And so we've met that goal that we're above
So our
that.
goal over the next couple of years is not to, we don't have a goal to increase that even more than 6 months?
That's what we need to talk about with we need to talk about that with in a finance committee meeting about
Okay.
if we want, we talked last month about how many years we can go without depleting all of our reserves if there would be a downturn. We need to have that conversation as to how many we have. What's there right now is that we want to make sure that we have at least 6 months, and that we wouldn't want it to go below 6 months at any point in time.
Right.
It's not the goal of where we necessarily want it to be.
Right.
Strategically.
Yeah,
The
because I
difference
think
is-
we want it to go a little bit up in these next year.
Because you've always talked in terms of rating. We don't want to go below 4 months, and it's ideal to be 6, just for our rating. Okay. That's a good question.
And probably the curriculum questions, are those more for another time? I mean, what was the purpose of bringing up the balanced scorecard right now?
Just that we had made some updates in some of the scores, and wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of those updates.
We update it in June and November.
Okay, okay.
Any other questions? Lots of good information there, thank you. Appreciate the effort and time that goes into updating it, it's a lot of good information there. Okay, anybody else have anything? All right, and the second thing you have for us is the out-of-state professional learning.
Yep, and that was our elementary world language teachers have asked to go to Kansas to be able to visit that school, just because ideally we had looked at some different schools in the area and there was not a program comparable within the state. So it's really like I would approve any other professional development. They submit a request, we take a look at, what hotel costs are, they follow the meal reimbursements that would take place within the contract. It's just because it's out of state, that's why we're bringing that to you. So they have had some relationships with this district as far as been in communication, know that it's a good program, have actually worked to base some of our current, as we've been expanding our elementary program, have used them as a model, so they really wanted to have the opportunity to go and observe those teachers and be able to bring back some things to our district.
So this is the total cost that you sent us?
Correct.
Is $1,000 for all of them?
Correct.
Okay.
With the subs and everything.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No. And this is all world language, not just Spanish, I didn't mention that.
This is our 3 elementary Spanish teachers, is who it includes.
Okay, so
it's just elementary.
Okay.
Correct. Maybe I didn't clarify that. No, it's just the elementaries.
Looks like a great experience. I'm glad that they are willing to go spend their time traveling to go to learn that and bring information back, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item we had was just regarding the future agenda items, and board, we have a new agenda item request form that is available to you. Was there anything that we had to hang in?
I don't have anything.
and I didn't receive anything, so no items.
I just had a question on whether it could be a future agenda item, but I have heard that people have had a hard time hearing on the recordings of our meetings, and I don't know if that needs to be an agenda item, but just a review of, I've heard that they hear the paper shuffling and side conversations.
They do.
And I don't know, I mean, do we just need to be much better about doing that, or is it the equipment?
It will pick up anything that's said at the table. My advice would be if your computer is directly in front of that you move it so that they can hear your voice, then don't have any paper or anything near it. But yeah, it's very sensitive.
Okay.
Yeah, and perhaps we can take the opportunity, if we have time, we can just, and whenever you have time to go on and listen.
I know, I've got
so
to
that
do
we
it.
can see, you can see if you can hear yourself clearly, or, so we can kind of pinpoint where the problems are.
Okay.
We can definitely look at that.
One thing, I don't know if it has to be an agenda item, but we'd like to have a share, so what do we want from the conference? It has to be an agenda item?
Oh, right.
Yeah, I didn't know if you guys wanted to take time during a meeting, or did you want to do that at our next retreat? I didn't know how you want to handle it. I did think it'd be a great idea, because I think everyone who attended brought back some really good information, and we certainly can put that out to share with board members. But then as far as a presentation, unless you want to put together a summary or something, I thought we may be able to handle that at a retreat, which we'll
You
have
could
on
also
Monday.
access all the information online. You guys should all have a password to get in to get any of the handouts too, which would be good.
The one thing about it, I guess it all depends on what we all went to. Because I found the ones that I was attracted to were topics that were currently things that we were doing, a lot of technology things and innovative classroom learning, and I was getting that information and bringing it back, and which was great, because that's how the Burlington, Illinois.
This week it came out of a presentation that Cheryl went to.
Yeah, on implementing the one-to-one, so that was great. So it almost seems like if we do, it depends on what everyone went to, because I was thinking either share with the administrators that it applies to without boring the rest in a meeting, or if it applies to us and management of the board, then that should be a retreat thing. Because there were so many things.
When we're going to schedule the retreat, because for session I went, they are all kind of current, right? There's all current issue going, things are applicable and relevant to us as well.
Yeah. And are the people who weren't able to go, can we have access to the materials?
You should be able to get on and get
So
that.
we just need our password?
Yep.
Okay.
Not I can get that.
Okay, I forgot.
Yeah, it was a very good conference. I think we had some very good takeaways, and I brought back some handouts that I'm going to share. And just, like you say, everything's available. But if there's something you want to target board members to go to, then we can certainly share amongst ourselves before the retreat, and send a summary out.
Or if it's information specific to one of the four of us or whatever, you're welcome to just send that directly to us. We'd love to look at it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, this concludes the information discussion item segment of the meeting, and we'll now move into the consent agenda. And I'll ask if there are any clarifications or discussion or items regarding the consent agenda. And I know we have one that we're going to pull. Okay. Were there any other besides the exception of the adoption of board policy 5125? Anything else anybody had, or I'll pull that for discussion now? Nothing else in the consent? Okay. So we're going to pull the board policy 5125, and we'll go ahead and put that to the side, and I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the adoption of board policy 5125.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented, except to remove policy number 5-125.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Beth, and thank you, Cheryl. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Disharum?
Aye.
Holzhauser?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
Reed? Aye. Zawin?
Aye.
Klug?
Aye.
Bozeman?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Okay, so everything else in the consent agenda was okay. Board policy 5125, we had a brief discussion and some concerns that came about regarding the policy, which is the social media policy that was proposed. This has been through the attorney. There is some language there that we received comments from that it's a little bit maybe constraining, or that we want time. So I think it's fair that we take some time to discuss it further amongst ourselves and try to meet with those who have some concerns and try to see if we can come up to a solution that will be best for the district and as well as the staff. So does anybody else want to have comments or concerns regarding this policy? Anything else? No? Okay. Should we go ahead and table it? Should I make a motion to table it? Okay. So the board discussed the adoption of board policy 5125 and reached a consensus to lay the motion on the table in order to have time to gather further information. So I'll ask now for a motion to table the adoption of board policy 5125 until the next board meeting for further review. And then maybe beyond that, I don't know if we can change the language on the timing. Just because of the holiday, we need to meet and...
How about just adoption of board policy 5125 for further review?
Okay, so let's take out...
Instead of until the next board meeting.
Give us a little bit more...
That way we don't have to bring it right back. Yep.
Okay. So I'll read that. You got it?
Yeah, I move to table board policy 5125 for further determination at a later date.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Paul. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Holzhauser.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Luke.
Aye.
Bozeman.
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Motion carried. Okay. So we're now moving to the action items segment of the meeting. So we got both motions good? Okay.
Good. Thank you.
All right. First thing we have is the bill list and the treasurer's report that were in your packet for review. And Mrs. Beverlin is here to answer any questions that you had regarding those reports. Did anybody have any questions regarding the bill list or the treasurer's report this month? Mrs. Beverlin, was there anything exciting you want to tell us about?
There's nothing exciting. Everything is tracking as we expect, so.
Good to hear.
No news is good news.
Right. Yes, that's right. Thank you. Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to approve payment of the bills.
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $3,148,493.56 as presented.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Karen. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Park.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Zawin.
Aye.
Bozeman.
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
Holzhauser.
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you. All right, and the district investment report is available in the packet for review, and Mr. Nguyen is here to join us if you have any questions. Was there anything you wanted to inform us on, or?
The Fed raised rates today a quarter point. I think the fact that the Fed fund futures were priced in 2 rate hikes, the fact that the Fed came in with a 3rd rate hike potential, I think caught the market off guard. I think they could have handled that a little better. With that being said, though, as it pertains to the portfolio, it will just be beneficial in the long run, just because as interest rates move higher, the portfolio will be able to get locked into higher rates, and which will mean more income for the district. And so all in all, it'll be a net positive.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. All right, we also had information regarding the 2016 tax levy in the board packet. And again, Mrs. Beverlin had a presentation earlier, but if there's any additional questions at this time? Anything on the tax levy? All right. Then I'll ask for a motion to approve the 2016 tax levy.
I move to approve the 2016 tax levy as presented in the tax levy resolution.
A second.
Oh, thank you, Beth, and thank you, Teresa. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Bozeman.
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
Holzhauser.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. All right, well, this concludes the action item segment of the meeting. The board will now move into closed session. Can I please have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act: student disciplinary cases, the appointment, employment, and compensation and performance of specific employees, and discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Karen, and thank you, Paul. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Samhain? Sauer?
Aye.
Bozeman?
Aye.
Disharum? Aye. Posthauser? Aye. Park?
Aye.
Reed? Aye.
All right, motion carried, thank you. Thank you all again, thank you, happy holidays.